Harley wants to know, how can you write a fraction as an equivalent fraction in simplest form? Well, first we need to know, excuse me, Harley, he wants to learn too. What is simplest form? Simplest form is as few equal parts of a whole as possible. To write a number in simplest form, we have to remember what a factor is. A factor are the two numbers that are used in a multiplication problem. 2 and 4 are factors that, when multiplied, equal the product 8. We will be using factors to help us simplify. Let's look at our first fraction. We have 8/10. We want to find a factor that 8 and 10 have in common. Well, 8/10 are both even numbers. So I'm going to start with 2. 8 can be thought of as 2 times 4. 10 can be thought of as 2 times 5. 2 is a common factor that these two numbers have in common. So I'm going to cross them out, leaving 4/5 fraction. 8/10 in simplest form would be 4/5. It is the least few equal parts of a whole. Let's look at 4/16. 4 and 16 are both even numbers. So I automatically know that 2 is going to be a common factor they have in common. 4 can be thought of as 2 times 2. 16 can be thought of as 2 times 8. I notice that the 2's are common, so I can cross them out. 2/8 is what's left. But I noticed something. I noticed that 2 and 8 can still have a common factor. I know that 2 can be thought of as 2 times 1. I also know that 8 can be thought of as 2 times 4. The 2's are common, so I can cross them out, leaving 1/4. 1/4 is as simple as it can get, because the only common factor they have left is 1. 1 times 1 equals 1, and 1 times 4 equals 4. Crossing both the commonalities out, you have 1/4 left, meaning 1/4 is as simple as 4/16 can get. But you can think about it in another way. If you want to make this faster, you could recognize that 4 and 16 have 4 as a common factor, meaning 4 times 1 equals 4, and 4 times 4 equals 16. I can cross out our common factors, leaving 1/4 as the simplest form. With that same mindset, let's look at 4/12. I see that 4 and 12 have the factor 4 in common. 4 times 1 equals 4, while 4 times 3 equals 12. I can cross out the common factor, leaving 1/3 as the simplest form. Oftentimes, well, all the time, you will notice that the simplest form is identified when the only remaining factor is 1. Looking at 5/5, I notice that 5 and 5 have a common factor of 5. 5 times 1 equals 5. 5 times 1 equals 5. I can cross out the common factors, and I notice that 1 over 1 is the simplest form of 5, which I also know that when a numerator and a denominator are the same, it really means that it equals a whole number. Looking at 3/12, 3 and 12 have a common factor of 3. 3 times 1 equals 3, while 3 times 4 equals 12. I can cross out our common factors, leaving the simplest form as 1/4. 8 of 24 students bought lunch. In simplest form, what fractions of students bought lunch? 8 of 24 students bought lunch. In simplest form, what fractions of students bought lunch? I know that 8 is part of the whole group of students. I have a total of 24 students. 8 bought lunch. How can I simplify 8/24? I know that 8 is a common factor between 8 and 24. 8 times 1 equals 8, while 8 times 3 equals 24. I can cross out the common factors, leaving the simplest form as 1/3. 1/3 of the students bought lunch.